So for everyone listening, my name is Emmanuel Carr. I live in Hopkins, Minnesota. I've been there for about 5 years now, and my background's in learning and development. So mainly creating training content, building learning strategy, facilitating training, and all the instructional design work that happens behind the scenes so that it's available for users to access and engage with the content, and making sure that it is engaging and is thought provoking and allows them to truly get something out of it and take action with it.
Welcome to Building Dreams Together, a podcast about connection, courage, and the daily actions that turn dreams into reality. Whether you're building your dream, rebuilding after a storm, or just looking for inspiration to take the next step, you're in the right place. This is Building Dreams Together. So, we like I said, you were my first person I hired. I think you answered an ad on Upwork, if I'm not mistaken. And when you first learned about what I'm doing here, what did you think when I talked to you about I Believe in Me program? Here's a program that we want to do for kids. I had this idea that I wanted to turn it into some kind of an animated, interactive thing. And what went through your mind when you looked at the material?
Sure. No, that's a great question. And so I have to admit, when I was initially applying for the position, I just wanted another paycheck, right? Some extra work to just get more experience having a client and building training content on the side. Because I also work full time. And so this is, initially a part-time thing that I do. But after meeting you, your energy was very charismatic. I wanted to get involved and wanted to figure out how I can best bring your dream to life. And you were willing to try new things in the space of learning and development. I introduced you to a variety of different tools that I thought could work and be impactful for us to be successful. And, after a handful of those calls, I was like, you know what, this is just a great product that you've created, that you're putting out there for kids to leverage and become more confident in themselves, and figuring out, hey, what is it that I really like to do? What am I good at? How do I believe in myself? How do I set goals for myself? How do I follow and reach my dreams, right? And so all that stuff, I just connect with it because, the way I live my life is very focused on setting goals for yourself, as well as just believing in yourself and looking at the positives of the things and not dwelling on the negatives that pop up, right? Everything isn't going to be sunshine and daisies, but you have to keep going forward and not giving up and trying until you hit your targets and the goal stuff.
So was that something that you lived? Did you live that truth prior to I Believe in Me, or did you pick something up from the I Believe in Me program and go, wow, that's like, what is there something that you learned in the process?
Sure. I would say I had a lot of this thinking already in just how I lived. For example, I went to college and got my undergrad in psychology, and right away I knew I was like, I need to do more. Like, I can't just end with the psychology degree. And so I went on and got my master's in training and development. And so I kept setting goals for myself and getting out a framework that I wanted my future to look like. And fast forward to meeting with you, I learned more about the structured approach that you've created in your process for building dreams and setting goals for yourselves, as well as just some of my own, SMART goal, WHOOP goals, those things like that I've known from my professional career. But I would say working with you, definitely adding more structure and some additional elements to how I think about my life, as well as how I reflect on my life and make decisions for, improving or reducing or adjusting whatever needs to change.
When I introduced you to the concept of life mapping, living by a code and the 4 pillars of life, have you ever was that something also that you lived in living by a code, being real, raw, and relevant to get the results you are, facing the facts, addressing the feelings, focusing on what am I actually doing to end with this goal that I want, and the concept of the four pillars: longevity, inner peace, family and friends, economics and education. Was any of that in your life?
I would say yes, it was, but again, the added kind of elements, like the four pillars themselves, the life acronym, I'd say those were not like I didn't scope my life out based on those four buckets, right? A lot of my experience is based on just working in corporate America, right? We build out lesson plans and things of that nature. And so really being able to take what you've created and say, hey, this week I need to focus on my balance. How am I managing my inner peace? And also looking at those relationships that I have and seeing, hey, maybe this one I need to take a step back from and engage furthermore with the relationship between my family, less on the friend side, because, maybe I'm not missing or spending enough time with the family and getting that time in with them, right? And so I'd say working with you definitely allowed me to look internally more so at each of those individual, body, being, balance, business pillars to be just more intentional with how I live my life. And then I'd say the life mapping piece was definitely helpful because again, my background's only in just like building out my career mapping, right? Rather than life mapping, which is how that tool should be applied, right? How can you take what's going on in your life and map out, where you're at today, what you want to get to, and then track that progress as you're going, right? You're going to go forward, you may go backwards a little bit, but as long as you know that end target, you're planning to be successful and making sure that you're not giving up as those derailers pop up as you're going through your journey.
The question that's coming up for me is, in your journey, in the journey of trying to transform that into the online program. I mean, getting it so people get it, is a challenge, right? Yeah, I know. And I think you've done a masterful job at doing that, by the way. So I give you kudos there for doing it. Tell me, you've recently become a new father, and how has that changed who you are, how you look at life? And you've also, at the same time, dealt with a personal, serious health issue, and it all came at once. So share with us what that is like, and how you move through your day. What do you tell yourself?
Yeah. I'd say becoming a father has been one of the greatest things that has ever happened in my life. Um, Knowing that you're no longer just living for yourself or living for your partner, you're now living for this thing, this individual that's going to carry on your bloodline, your lifeline, and you have all the power to influence how that individual is going to turn out, how they're going to show up for people, how they're going to show up for themselves, how are they going to give back to their communities, how they're going to just be themselves, right? And so just thinking about taking better care of myself, I'd say was the most important thing that I immediately had to focus on, not being as reckless with, eating out or, consuming too much alcohol or whatever it may be, right? Just being more intentional about how I'm taking care of myself so that I can be around for my son as he gets older. And so I'd say that ties nicely into found out that I had a weird lump on my face, and so I ended up having to deal with that, and it did come back as cancerous, and so just going through that process. I'd say without him and my wife, it would be way more challenging to, wake up in the middle of the night from those cold sweats just thinking about it and getting burnt out and sad about it. But knowing that I'm doing it so that I can be around for them in the long run is the most important thing for me to even consider, right? And, I I honestly I'd say right now, bringing it back to the pillars, right? I feel that thinking about my body right now is the most important thing that I'm focused on right now. And I think that with the four pillars, if you think about the body being balanced business, they may adjust as you're living your life based on the things that are going on in your life. What's most important at this exact moment, right? And for me, that's the body pillar. And so just thinking about what my health goals are, it's like, hey, am I trying to manage my weight a little bit better now that I'm going through this treatment on the backside? Uh, am I making sure I'm getting outside for walks with the baby because that's quality bonding time and also getting to show him the world, which feeds into my, body pillar. And so just being very intentional about how I'm showing up for my family and just making sure that I continue to take care of myself is highly, highly important over the last 7 months now.
Yeah, yeah, I know, especially because these two things happen. So much joy in your life with your son being born, and then dealing with this health issue. Almost right after, right? It was like right, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
But
It was
yeah,
almost so, yeah. One then on top of that, he came 5 weeks early. And so that was, we both were very like, we have a preemie now. Like, what does that even mean? You go online and you don't know what's actual fact or, not based on like your own specific situation. And so,
yeah, he was in the hospital for a little while, right?
yeah, 10 days, 10 days in the
10
NICU.
days.
And NICU nurses are fantastic. So if you're
Yeah,
listening and you're a NICU nurse, thank you for all that you do. You are amazing. So I just wanted to give that shout out.
yeah, yeah. So on the spiritual side, on the being side, what I think we talk about meditation, visualization, journaling. How has that played a role in what you do?
Yeah, I'd say of those three things, I'd say my visualization uh, exercise is probably the most critical thing that I do. So, taking time to think about my current situation and kind of visualize what outcome I actually want. And then what I like to do is I start at, hey, for example, I just actually recently got a new job. And so with that in mind, I visualized the new job that I wanted and I kind of outlined, okay, how am I going to get that job? Well, first I need to prepare my resume. I need to prepare my uh, interview notes. I need to just get all organized so that I can show up as prepared as possible. Right. And so just taking that time to just sit somewhere alone, quiet, down here in my chair, just thinking about what it is I want to accomplish. And so I do that frequently, whether it's for sports, whether it's for exercising, whatever it is. I think visualization is extremely, extremely important for you getting prepared to reach your target or your goal. Uh, the journaling piece has actually been very interesting too in the last 4 months, I'd say. And I'd say I've kind of used it in a weird way. I kind of have this journal that I keep with like an AI chatbot, essentially. And so what I'll do is I'll write out my thoughts, my ideas about what I want to accomplish. And then, how AI works, right? It talks back to you essentially and kind of can give you insights back on what you've written down. Well, all the time I would admit, like they're agreeing with you versus like challenging you to think different. But having that option to just put your thoughts on paper and have something to elaborate on it has been truly like fascinating for me just to be considerate of what other options I have or how further out can I stretch this idea that I've come up with. And so definitely starting to explore kind of the journaling utilizing AI aspect, which I found very, very exciting.
Yeah, it's interesting. AI has come up in several conversations that we've been having here on the podcast. And, you know, this is a perfect example, having a conversation with you right now about AI, because you're in the tech world. What you do is create jobs. I mean, you have a job in the tech world, just got a new job, a promotion of a job, a bigger job than what you had before. And people are today talking about, oh, AI is going to take over and you're going to lose your job, that it's going to do your job. What do you tell people who say that, knowing that you're embracing it and using it as a tool to be a better performer in what you do versus being afraid that it's going to take over your job?
Absolutely. Yeah. So as I said earlier, I look at all the benefits and the positives that come from situations and experiences. And so when I initially thought about AI, I was like, okay, they're saying it's going to take our jobs. Well, what if I know how to use it so good that I use it to do my job more effectively, or I educate people on how to do their jobs more effectively? So in my world of using AI in the learning and development space, I primarily create these chat GPTs to help with specific activities. So whether that's creating learning objectives or overview introductions or scripts, whatever it may be, I use it in a way that allows me to create work fast, but also making sure that I keep that human element in all the things that I create so that it feels real. It doesn't feel like it was just something that was spit out by an AI bot, right? And I would say, if you have that fear of AI, I'd say take some time, take a day, take a couple hours just playing around with it, seeing if you can use it to, come up with a creative recipe or a meal plan for the week, or maybe you share out an investing idea that you're thinking about and kind of see what recommendations it gives you, or maybe you need a recommended workout plan, right? I'd say just use it, try it out, get some experience with it so that you do feel comfortable with it, so that if it does come to a case where you need to learn how to apply AI on your job, you get that practice outside of work and you've done that. You've done the time to just get more exposure to it and get more comfortable using it. Um, I'd say too, the most important thing with using AI is your prompts that you create. So the messages that you send to the AI chatbot, those are prompts. And so getting stronger at building those prompts will lead to greater outputs that you are going to get back and will ultimately help you just be, again, more effective and efficient at using AI. So, yeah.
Yeah. You know, I've been using AI, and I love that you talked about you're using AI to like journal in and get some conversation back about what it is that you're journaling. And you mentioned that, oh, it always kinds of agrees with you. I've set a prompt up in one of the tools that I'm using to challenge me,
Nice.
not to agree with me. In other words, no, 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 no. I don't need you to tell me all the good that I am. I want you to challenge what I'm saying. I want you to disagree with what and show me where are the holes,
Yeah.
you know? And so, and a lot of people may not want to be that courageous.
Yeah. Yeah. But, they're getting that feedback from an entity that you're engaging with versus getting feedback from just, a partner, a friend or a coworker, right? And, not everyone likes receiving feedback. And I can admit to this too. Like early on in my career, I was terrified of getting feedback because I read that as like I'm doing something wrong versus I may be doing something wrong, but they're giving me this feedback so I can do it right, so I can perform better, right? They're trying to help you. I know it's cliche to say this, but feedback is truly a gift because it will help you perform better at the end of the day, whether that's with how you communicate with your partner, how you perform your job, how you show up as a teammate in the sport, whatever it may be. And sometimes people need to learn how to deliver feedback like that. That's sometimes out of our control,
Well,
but you got to take that feedback, and if it's actually applicable for you to change, then figure out how you can take it and run.
yeah, I agree with you. I was, as a child, I was petrified of feedback, if you will. And maybe it's because of a lot of things that I went through when I was a child, and I'm not going to get into it here now. but I was petrified of my own shadow. I mean, I would never do this, have a conversation that's going out public where anybody and everybody can see it. No, that was not me. That was not me. This took many years of trust to get to this point where I'm willing to put myself out there. Maybe it comes with age. I don't know, because right now, get to a point where you don't really give a fuck. It's just,
Sometimes you are a message to share, right?
yeah, I just think that what the message that I have for the world is important. This podcast, Building Dreams Together, is important to me. Which brings me to a question: when I talked about doing the podcast and creating this program and this name, Building Dreams Together, what does that mean to you? It's a question I ask almost every guest. What does Building Dreams Together mean?
To me, building dreams together, you know, I'd say it depends, right? If you're someone that's working on the project with you, it's literally building out this program to help people build their dreams, get a roadmap created and a plan in place so that they can hit those goals and dreams that they're set for themselves. Uh, Now, if you're a listener, it means taking this content and information that's being shared out to them to then say, "Hey, I'm going to take action today. I'm going to set a plan, define what it is I'm looking for with the help of these individuals that are sharing their thoughts, sharing their experiences with me because, they could have had a similar journey and they're keeping moving forward. So why don't I keep moving forward, right? And so I'd say just it's that collaboration, whether it be indirectly or directly with others to get to where you want to get to.
Talk about Remy for a second, your son, and picture this years later, and Remy's looking back at his dad and what his dad has done, and built and been part of. Um, what do you hope he understands? What do you hope he's learned when he looks at who you are and how you play a role in his life?
Yeah. I'd say the most important thing is that he stays true to himself while also making sure to be respectful to others, show up for others, and have dreams. Anything is possible. I grew up in a city where teachers were just like, there's a handful of teachers that just didn't have that belief that you could do something with your life. And now,
Really?
as I reflect or talk with friends about kind of where I'm at in my career, where I'm at professionally, where I'm at with my family, it's just like I couldn't have dreamt this up. But those goals that I set for myself earlier on, it clearly was leading me to this, right? And so I would say have have goals, believe in yourself, and make sure to engage with your friends and family. Like they're here to support you, and make sure you're there to support them as well. It needs to be a give and take relationship that's being provided. Sorry, give and take. Yeah, give and take. I said all right. Just making sure that you're showing up for people. I'd say that's probably the thing that I want him to recognize, that if you show up for people, they will show up for you. And just making sure that um, you try to make time for people and be there for them.
Great, great. Well, I really appreciate you coming on here with me, and I guess I have one last question. It's about hurdles and overcoming the biggest challenges, and a life changing moment, a moment where things fell into place for you, where you became the man you are. Before I met you, the guy that I met, who was already really living his dream in a sense. What can you identify that moment?
Absolutely, actually. And it kind of just popped in my head as you were asking the question. This is all real time, everyone. Uh, yeah. So at my current company, I'd been there for a year, and my manager said they were leaving, and in my mind, right away, I knew what that meant. That meant I was going to have to do his job to fill the gap. And that meant facilitating training workshops for managers, manager level individuals, directors, senior managers, senior directors, right? And I've never had a manager job in my life, right? And so immediately imposter syndrome just hit me from every which direction. And that immediate self-doubt, that scaredness, that just fear of being able to do the job and getting up in front of people, right? Like I was very scared to facilitate, very similar to you, Jack, right? I wouldn't ever imagine sitting here on a podcast or on a camera, talking to an audience, but here we are. And
Yeah.
I'd say knowing that fear that I had in that moment, and then just on that day one of that 4-day workshop that I had to lead and facilitate, and just, leading the group through that training experience, showing up as my authentic self, creating a learning environment where people felt comfortable being vulnerable and sharing what opportunities they have to be as leaders, right? Maybe they're not good at giving feedback. Maybe they're not good at setting strategy, right? I wanted to make sure I created a training space where people felt comfortable sharing those things and can look to their peers to get that feedback, those recommendations so that they could improve their performance. And I'd say that was probably the best thing that could have ever happened. Like, I love facilitating now. I love being in a space where I don't know all the answers, but after getting this experience to facilitate, right, I've learned some skills of, why, if you don't know the answers, why don't you lean on your participants to say, how would you handle that? Or how have you handled it in the past? And really engage with them even further so that they can show their expertise. That's one thing that adults love to do. They love to talk about themselves and how they
Yeah.
accomplish things, right? And so, yeah, I often think about that moment. I'm thinking about it, of how if I hadn't been pushed into the deep end to figure out that I can swim, I can hold my breath, I can perform, uh, I probably wouldn't feel as comfortable and confident being in front of leaders talking about how to be a better coach, how to have a honest conversation, how to set objectives, uh, because you don't need to have direct reports or be a manager to be a leader. Anyone.
No, no, you stepped right into the being role. It's what one of the biggest things we talk about at Believe Become the You. Step into being as if it's true today. You had no choice. You had to step into the manager role. You didn't know how. The how didn't matter. You figured it out, but you became that person. And you became that person inside of, even when you first started working with me, I had hired you to actually do the work. And almost immediately we had to find a team to do the work, and you managed the team, you know?
Yep. Yeah, that was interesting too. Had to do my first firing there too.
That's right. Yep. You had to fire someone. You had to fire the first team we hired and then come pick up another one. Yeah. And now you're stepping into that role again inside of what I'm doing, because on the life mapping course inside of Articulate, you're the one who's been doing the work there. And now with this new position and new job and in the new programs that I want to bring to the platform, you like can't really be that person. So we've got to find another team for you
Yep.
to manage so you can manage that team.
Yeah.
But you see, you stepping, it's so the lesson I think that we want to get across to people is step into it. Don't be afraid. Do the step, be it, be what it is that you want to be, live as if it's true today. Believe that you are, believe, become, be you. Is this the name of our company? Well, it's
There it is.
there it is. Live it. Live
You
it.
know, you gotta be comfortable with the discomfort, because
Yes.
it's going to happen. But I know you think about all the people that became great in what they do, they didn't start there.
No.
Right? many failures, and it's okay to fail as long as you keep going. Don't give up and keep pushing yourself to get better and better by using the feedback that you receive. And, find coaches, find peers that can help you grow and develop your skills, because there are definitely people out there in your corner, and, you just have to take the time to find them and work with them, and also support them too. It's give and take relationship.
Yeah. It's teamwork. It's togetherness. It's building dreams together. On that note, Emmanuel, thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate it. And I'm glad people got to meet you. And I hope that our conversation today will help inspire others out there to do their best job and to be willing to walk into situations they don't know how the end result's going to be yet.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Jack, for having me. And hopefully I'll be back in another episode in the future.
Yeah, for sure. I hope there's going to be many more of these. We'll see how successful they are.
Great. Thanks, Jack.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
If today's conversation inspires you, please like it, subscribe, and share it with someone you love.